Welcome back to our continuing special coverage of today's fifth hearing now from the January 6th committee, and it put a lot of focus on the person that Donald Trump thought might actually pull off the coup from the inside. If it's a name you have not heard much, you're going to start hearing it a lot. Mr. Jeffrey Clark, who played this crucial role in those days leading up to the insurrection. Republican Congressman Perry worked to sneak him basically into the White House so he could be installed eventually as the new acting attorney general.
Was it your understanding that Representative Perry was pushing for a specific person to take over the department?
He wanted Mr. Jeff Clark to take over the Department of Justice.
During that call, did Scott Perry mention Mr. Clark, and what did he say about him, if so?
He did. He mentioned Mr. Clark. He said something to the effect of, I think Jeff Clark is great, and I think he's the kind of guy who could get in there and do something about this stuff. And this was coming on the heels of the president having mentioned Mr. Clark.
Then there's the evidence, text messages from that aforementioned congressperson to Trump's chief of staff saying 11 days to January 6th, you should call Jeff. Again, incriminating because that day, the 6th that we've heard was just so out of control and unpredictable, was actually front and center on the minds of so many of these individuals working inside the government to override your votes and steal this election from you, the American people. So then they did get in touch with Clark. Trump was intent on trying to make him the new head of the DOJ so that he could help steal the election. Now, it was a last-ditch effort at this point. You've seen Bill Barr and others by that point stand up to Donald Trump. So it wasn't something that could definitely be a slam-dunk actionable coup, but it was Donald Trump pushing to the very end to try to get that coup help on the inside. Then there's these official call logs. Nicole Wallace and others have emphasized that in our coverage as soon as this broke today, which show not only these two individuals talking constantly on the 3rd, but by 4:19 p.m., according to the Trump White House, Mr. Clark had become, in their view, quote, acting Attorney General Jeff Clark. A witness today describes then the Oval Office clash on that same day.
I said, Mr. President, you're talking about putting a man in that seat who has never tried a criminal case, who's never conducted a criminal investigation. He's telling you that he's going to take charge of the department, 115,000 employees, including the entire FBI, and turn the place on a dime and conduct nationwide criminal investigations that will produce results in a matter of days. It's impossible. It's absurd. It's not going to happen, and it's going to fail.
It's absurd and will failure, and that is, to be clear, the diplomatic, substantive version of the case, because that witness was using facts, evidence, and history, trying to assert and explain to then-President Trump why this person was completely unqualified for this job. But again, they're talking to a person who's trying to steal an election and end democracy. You have to remember that. Whether that is ultimately proven to be a felony against Donald Trump is a legal question. But the evidence of the coup is overwhelming. And so at that time, just like Vladimir Putin is not checking everyone's qualifications for different jobs, the only qualification that this would-be autocrat had in mind was someone who would help him steal the election and hold on to power. That's why it didn't matter that this was an environmental lawyer. He could have not been a lawyer. He could have literally been anybody. The point was that he was in a position close enough where Donald Trump thought he might muscle him into the job and help him steal the election. So what stopped that? Well, today's hearing was very effective in this. Now, some of this has been written up in the Post and elsewhere, but again, as I mentioned in our coverage, this is the first time we, the news viewing public, the American public, has seen these Trump appointees say it themselves under oath in public in these Watergate-style reckoning hearings. And the warning was also an echo of what faced Richard Nixon in that massacre, the so-called DOJ massacre of mass resignations, which were warned by Trump's aides and appointees against Trump.
He said, so suppose I do this. Suppose I replace him, Jeff Rosen, with him, Jeff Clark. What would you do? And I said, Mr. President, I would resign immediately. I'm not working 1 minute for this guy, who I had just declared was completely incompetent. And so the president immediately turned to Mr. Engel, and he said, Steve, you wouldn't resign, would you? And he said, absolutely, I would, Mr. President. You leave me no choice. And then I said, and we're not the only ones. I said, Mr. President, within 24, 48, 72 hours, you could have hundreds and hundreds of resignations of the leadership of your entire Justice Department because of your actions. What's that going to say about you? Steve pointed out that Jeff Clark would be left leading a graveyard.
Jeff Clark, that name I told you about, leading a professional graveyard. Today, Jeff Clark is dealing with the federal raid of his house. He went from being potentially the head of the DOJ to right now being someone raided by FBI agents. And the final point that came through here, although the committee was careful not to oversell it, so I'm going to put a period on it, is we hear so much about Donald Trump as this wily, reckless, sloppy, disorganized person who just does whatever he wants over and over and over. And sure, you can point to examples of that. But here, on the issue that had completely fixated him, that he was obsessed with, he listened to the evidence provided on January 3rd. He listened to these people. Why? Because he still had one more plan for January 6th. And if those mass resignations came, if Mr. Clark, now facing the feds, was leading this graveyard, if the whole country was convulsing over that, any last-ditch effort to steal the race on the 6th would have died right then and there. That is the clearest, I think, most basic interpretation of what stopped this person who claims to do anything and be reckless and not care and attack the deep state. No, he stopped in his tracks so he could make one more round at this on the 6th. And that is legally incriminating. Our coverage continues with our all-star panel. Former federal prosecutor Paul Butler back at the table, joined by Rebecca Roiphe, professor of law with New York Law School. Former Watergate prosecutor Nick Ackerman here, and New York Times editorial board member Mara Gay. Great to have all of you here. I start with you, Nick.
Sure.
Is it possible that people who were this high up in the DOJ could end up going to prison?
Of course. I mean, absolutely. They were right in the middle of this coup. I mean, you talked before about this being reminiscent of Watergate. I mean, this brings back to me the Saturday Night Massacre when the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General actually did resign. And what people don't understand is that they worked with Robert Bork, who was the Solicitor General, and made sure that he was the one that fired Archibald Cox and not leave and resign like they did, because their big concern was that Richard Nixon would put a flunky in the Department of Justice to take it over. And that's exactly what we saw today.